sent it off and I talked with Nicole and the startling newcomer, Caragh Maxwell. And about 11 o'clock that night I looked at what I'd written. For some reason I put up email again, I got on the phone to the Irish Times in complete panic because I'd written startling newcomer, Caragh Maxwell. And not surprising in a way, Caragh's first published piece, Anatomy of a Sinking Ship, was published in the Irish Times to enormous acclaim. Her first stories went to the Irish Times Science Fiction. She's been published in The Firmament. She is part of the Emerging Writers Showcase in the Stole. All in a few short months. She is a virtuoso. So happy to welcome Caragh. No pressure, Caragh.
Startled is definitely the better word, I think. So I'm going to read a story over the last couple of weeks. I wrote it to read tonight. I'm also incredibly nervous, so be patient with me. The title is Two for Joy, and I'm just going to launch into it. The morning starts in a rush, bare feet on cold bathroom tile, vomit burning the back of your throat, coating the toilet bowl before you can even focus your eyes. Your stomach is roiling, churning, calling last night's chicken fajitas into question, and the milk you put in your petrol station coffee on the way to work. Pulling yourself upright by the side of the back, you wipe the sweat from your face and blink in the harsh light streaming from the opaque window, printing a swirly, loopy pattern on the white of your legs. The toilet seat meets your chin once more, retching, nothing to give, begging you to gut yourself. When you can stand, you take shaky steps down the stairs to the kitchen, out the back to the bin, check the date on the empty plastic the fillets came in. In date by 3 days, not the fajitas then. Insides rush once more at the bin smell, decaying, moulding larvae, and you gag all the way back to the house. You must have woken Russell at the door, because he's up now, bleary-faced, hair on end like a bud of wild cotton. Can I have a peppermint tea, please? He nods and switches out the bags and the mugs. You gingerly sniff the milk in the carton, check the date. That's fine too, only bought in Super Value yesterday on the way home. Must have been the petrol station one, so. Over the tea, you start to come back to yourself, waking up, the steaming mint soothing the gurgle, the recoiling gnaw. You're up early. You alright? He asks, sleep still kick on his tongue. Yeah, hard, sick stomach. Did you feel okay after dinner last night? Yeah, not a bother. Why, have you the runs? There's Imodium in the press. No, the other way. Must have been the milk or something. Ah, Jesus. You're not going to go to work, are you? It's passing. Besides, I'm getting my intern today. It is 7:34. You excuse yourself, ruffling his hair on the way by, go for a shower. In the heat and the damp and the sun, you examine yourself for lumps, worried, hypochondriac brain jump into malignancies and tumours and death sentences. When you reach your abdomen, you have a horrible thought. You begin to count backwards on your fingers. 4, 5, 1 week, and 1, 2, 3 days late. Shit. Still, it could have been the milk. It could have been anything. Your fingers have stopped probing, finding work instead and scrubbing the roots of your hair, the strawberry lather burning your eyes. When you come down to leave, Rossa is out the back, behind the bins and in towards the shed. What are you doing? Nothing. The answer is suspicious, tone too even. You can hear a lapping, a licking, the dollop of water as it hits the ground. You pull your scarf up to cover your nose and trot down and find him on his hunkers next to a small grey cat with its face in one of the pretty robin egg blue bowls your parents gave you as a housewarming gift. What the fuck is that? I found him. I was putting out the compost bin and I could hear a noise coming from the hedge and he was just stuck in there crying. I pulled him out and I got him some water. Rossa reaches out and scratches the thing behind the ear, and it nudges the palm of his hand in return, purring serenely. Don't look at me like that. He hasn't even turned to face you, but he knows your pupils are boring holes in the back of his head. I wasn't looking at you, big head. Don't feed him. I'll ring pause for thought cattery on my lunch. You try very hard to keep your voice even. Rossa smiles blithely at you and continues to scratch him, admiring the little twitch of his whiskers and the soft curl of his tail. 8:31, don't want to be late. You won't be stopping at Maxwell for coffee this morning anyway. Work is work is work. The intern is 7 years younger than you, tight midriff, skirt stopping just at her fingertips, soft auburn hair gleaming in the white, sterile office light. When she smiles, her whole face lights up, and she is eager, trying to impress you with her degree from UCD and her extensive knowledge of Google Sheets. She spent some time travelling, she says, and completed an Erasmus year in Toronto. You smile at this, tell her you're planning a big move there in the next 2 years with your fiancé, that you've been getting the money together for visas and apartment deposits and flights. You don't tell her, and you haven't even told Rossa, but you've started to cut down the amount of clothes, shoes and crap you own, streamlining so eventually you'll be able to fit yourself into 2 large suitcases. At lunch you offer to take her to Pascal's, your favourite bistro, food's on you. She'll be stuck to you for the next 8 months, may as well get to know her. Over the food, yours is serrano ham, goat's cheese and pesto panini with a side of double cooked wedges, hers an egg white omelette and a side salad. Hold the dressing please. Ugh, it's so hard to say no sometimes, isn't it? You're disappointed to find all she wants to do is pick your brain for work tips. How did you get the job? You must have known someone, she says, in between teeny tiny bites, plump pink lips careful of the fork. You bristle at the assumption, the implication of nepotism. No, actually. I got my marketing degree in DCU, paid my dues in 2 years of unpaid internships. I've worked my way into management over the past 3 years. Believe me, you're in for so many sleepless nights. You feel a little smug at this, wearing your hard work like a badge of honour, puffing your chest to make sure she sees it gleaming. Your 20s have been spent stationed behind desks, pouring coffees, answering phones, filling jotter after spreadsheet after email after form, interspersed with weekends hanging from bar stools and kitchen chairs, telling everyone about your grand plans for the future. You've broken your back to get to a moment like this, a year off your 30s, speaking down a little to your moony-eyed intern over an expensive lunch as she begs for insight and validation. Oh, it must have been hard back then. For a woman, I mean. I just filled out a form on the recruiting page and, well, here I am. She gestures to herself, punctuating with a giggle, clear and bright. Suddenly the panini is about to reassemble itself on the plate in front of you, and without so much as an excuse me, you hightail to the bathroom, beads of sweat popping across your forehead. You're unwell. You must be unwell. This is unholy, this feeling. Innards contracting in an unnatural way. Indoor light blinding. Smells and tastes and sounds overwhelming, drowning you in one great wave, seasick green and punch-drunk stumbling. You think of what your mother would do if she were here, put you to bed and give you flat 7-Up, burnt toast and digestive biscuits. Her face swims into view, and for some reason you can only think of her smiling, one big grin, eyes alight at the notion. You can hear her now. Did you do a test yet? When you return, the intern has taken care of the bill. She's gathered your things, and a little grin appeared between her carefully arched brows, jutted slightly. God, even when she's concerned, she looks like a fucking porn star, and the thought is enough to make you dig your nails into your palms. Are you okay? You're gone all green. You nod, refrain from snatching your coat and bag out of her hands, sighing something about a 24-hour bug. Could be contagious. We probably shouldn't share a car back. I think I'm going to go home anyway, see if a sleep helps. She sees right through your tone and your shitty excuse, and the rejection makes her back straighten, and suddenly you feel bad, awful, downright wicked, jealousy receding back into its dank little cave in the back of your skull. Try ginger ale. I get really bad motion sickness and it's great for nausea. I hope you feel better. You thank her and take your things, avoiding her eyes. On the way back home, you stop at the little chemist on Friar Street, the one where you got the morning after pill for the first time. Ironic. As you eye the rows of clear blue and first response, you feel like a fugitive, harbouring some deadly secret between your thighs. You pick the most expensive one because you remember the ad. A woman smiling at a little screen with the words 3 days pregnant on it. hand flying to her mouth in utter delight, eyes sparkling, her husband's arm around her shoulders, smiling equally wide, all bleached veneers and tan faces. The woman behind the till asks, "Just this then?" and you could swear her tone carries a lilt of joy, her eyes lingering on your abdomen for just a moment as you pull your purse from your bag. You remember the pharmacist who gave you emergency contraception. You remember the mouth turned down at the corners. How many sexual partners have you had? How many times have you had unprotected sex? Was it an accident or deliberate? Did you try to use protection? Her face an inscrutable mask of elder disappointment, shame drenching your words as you answered, a little Lolita of 17 with her legs tightly crossed and her cuticles bloody from chewing. You contract your thighs at the memory, hand her a €20 note and don't wait for the change. The car dash clock reads 13:36 when you pull up outside the house, rain pelting the windshield like a skittering of gravel thrown up from the wheels. Rossa has the fire lit and a hot water bottle filled, daytime TV playing softly, sick day comforts. You are glad of him in this moment, the smell of Dove soap on the crook of his neck and wood smoke in his hair, the thick shock of curls pulling you in, settling your stomach. The afternoon passes quietly in his arms, comforted, eyelids heavy and worry subsided. The rain knocks on the door all day, but you don't let it in. You turn the locks and close instead. That evening your hand shakes a little as you rip open the long plastic packet and read the instructions with a squint. Glasses still in the cup holder of the car. Hold test at a downward angle. Hold under stream for 5 seconds, no more or less. Wait 2 to 3 minutes. Read test window. Carry on with your life. Slipping the cap off, you hold the cotton strip at a careful angle as you pee, mouthing to 5. Knuckles rap on the door as you're lifting your hand and the fright makes you jump. The test catches the lip of the toilet and drops pitifully into the bowl, the backsplash hitting your palm. Fuck's sake, Rossa. It comes out meaner than you intended, biting, acid spit. What do you want? I was just going to ask if you wanted tea. There is a silence that stretches between the two of you, vacuous and yawning. Are you all right? You've been in there a while. I'm fine, I'll be down in a minute. And I'd love a tea, thanks. You fiddle with the toilet paper, hoping the noise will scrub out the horrible tension your words are creating. Okay. I love you. Love you too. You wait for the retreat of footsteps before getting up. Pulling up knickers and trousers in the one, you look down into the bowl and with a sigh fish out the destroyed test, wad it in toilet paper and shove it down into the far dusty reaches of the bathroom, thinking bitterly about the 20 note and the pharmacist. The next day starts the same as the one before it. At 6:42 you email work and inform them you'll be taking sick days until the end of the week. Even if you stopped vomiting at this stage, you'd still be avoiding the intern. The thought of her voice makes you cringe, muscles contracting, trying to pull you back in on yourself, trying to hide you from yourself. Rossa is still in bed, so you sneak a cigarette from the pack hidden in the pocket of your old winter coat, kept for emergencies. This whole week has been an emergency. The Pall Mall smoke grows dense in the morning rain, and as the last lungful hits the frigid air, you can hear a rattling in the shed. Inside, Rossa has erected a poky little den made of old blankets and one of the cushions from the spare bed, and right in the middle is the bloody cat from yesterday. Yeah, it's a stray. I wouldn't say any older than 12 weeks. Surely he'd be snapped up when he's still so small. It is 10:50, 10 minutes before your GP appointment. Fidelma from the cattery is giving you the runaround down the phone. The shelter is full. We believe in feed, don't breed. We'll neuter the cat and drop it back out. She doesn't seem to understand that you do not want this cat. In a last-ditch attempt, you tell her you're allergic, sniffling for emphasis, and she agrees to send the warden out that afternoon. The GP calls your name as you hang up, and with a glance back towards the front door, you follow her to her office, feet suddenly encased in cement, shuffling behind her like a death row inmate. How long has it been since your last period? 6 weeks, give or take. She makes a note, blue ink scratching yellow lined paper. And have you been trying to conceive? No.
Did you bring a urine sample? You fish the yellow-lidded vial out of your handbag, wrapped in tissue, and hand it to her gently, a faint blush rising. She goes to the sink and dips the sample, placing the stick across the rim and leaving it to develop. You fiddle with your engagement ring, twisting and twisting, suddenly aware of the pressure on your finger. The hour of judgment is upon you. It sits heavy on your shoulders, drags you down into the hard plastic chair, bolts you to the seat by your sit bones. She crosses the room once more and examines the strip. Congratulations. She smiles kindly and shows you, a bright pink plus sign screaming at you, her face only falling at the greying of yours. You grab the wastepaper basket and retch, visions of Canadian visas, management opportunities and destination weddings, crumbling like punched drywall, replaced instead with sleepless nights, maternity jeans, and cracked nipples ruining your nice work shirts with milk stains. On the way home, thoughts of England and the ferry flit through your head like slides in an old projector, a dazed, hazy fog shutting out everything in front of you but the road that is melting away beneath the car tires. Rossa is a wandering star, waiting for you to pull him into your orbit, to consider him, to let him in. When you pull up outside the house, there is a voicemail on your phone, Fidelma from the cattery, calling to say your partner elected to keep the cat. You can hear the note of triumph in her tone. Rossa has sent you 3 pictures of the damned cat, along with a lengthy message about how the warden warned him of the cat's probable demise via lethal injection if he did not adopt. You throw the phone back into your bag and sit in the silence for 6 minutes, listening to the engine cooling down, keeping an eye on the dash clock. Ross's car is gone from the driveway. You would bet your life that he is down in the pet shop buying food bowls with paw motifs and little mice with bells on the tails. You do the maths as you sit on the back doorstep, mashing the pitiful butt of your morning cigarette with the toe of your boot, trying to ignore the guilt of it. You won't know until the ultrasound next week, but if you got pregnant when you think you did, then it'll be a Gemini. Your brother is a Gemini and he's a fucking arsehole. Marilyn Monroe was a Gemini too, and look what happened there. Somewhere along the line, your face has become wet with tears, fat, salty drops splattering on the front of your jumper, little noiseless sobs constricting your throat miserably. A fucking Gemini. Along the top of the lone garden wall, an aged, ivy-covered thing about 7 feet tall, 2 magpies are sitting and picking through the vines. 1 for sorrow, 2 for joy. The sight makes you bawl even harder and you can't slow it down, can't catch a breath or a break, eyes starting to stick shut with runny mascara, howling like a wounded bitch. Fuck off, you roar, and they don't even flinch, immune to humanity all the way up there, gloating. In your peripheral there is a shadow of movement. The cat is stalking quietly across the top of the wall, eyes fixated on the magpies. The sobs are growing smaller now, dying in your chest. When he is about a foot away, he springs from his hunkers and dives for the nearest one, claws unsheathed, sending the pair into the sky with a distressed squawk and an erratic beating of wings. Unaffected, he drops back to the ground and comes to lie in the grey stony dirt under the hedge, looking at you for a moment before blinking slowly as if to say, "There, job done." What are we going to do? The words are a shocked whisper, an involuntary spasm of the larynx. The sky above you is brooding, sighing with the weight of the rain, and the clothes are barely drying in the humid air, hanging limp from the clothesline like fresh corpses. Thank you.
I didn't want to say it at the start, but that's Carol's first public reading. So, well,
Thanks. Sweating.
Nicole, you're kind of a this case.
Don't say that. Don't expect more from me.
I mean, the thing that Karen and Nicole have in common is that when you first hear the voice, you get the tug, the pull of a real writer's voice. About 6 years ago, Nicole, when I first met you. Nicole's short story track very deservedly won the 2017 White Review Short Story Prize. Her fiction and non-fiction appeared in Sting the Fly, previously rated for the Irish Times and Winter Papers. Her debut collection, Show Good Times, first published by Bloomsbury, by Sting the Fly in Bloomsbury, wasn't it?
Sting the Fly in Ireland.
Yeah, in February and March, to immense acclaim. And her debut novel, Nothing Special, will be published by Bloomsbury in 20. She's been compared to Laurie Moore among others, but in truth she has her own singular voice. Cool, phantom, cosmopolitan tone, conveying humour and depth in the same few words, and sometimes the same few syllables.
Thank you, Owen, for that lovely introduction, and thank you, Cara, for the lovely reading. The story I'm going to read is called Hump. At 70, after suffering several disappointments, the first being my mother, the second being me, my died. That evening, he gathered the family in his room and asked if anyone had any questions. No one did. The next day, he died. At the funeral, everyone looked like someone I might sort of know. These strangers told anecdotes, general health suggestions to each other. I passed out the sandwiches. The sandwiches were cling filmed and oddly perforated, like they had been pierced again and again by cocktail sticks. I said "Sambo" to every single person in that room. It was a good word, a word I would hope would get me through the entire evening. I wasn't strong on speaking or finding ordinary things to discuss in large groups. The place was crowded with false grief. People constantly moving positions like in an A&E, depending on the severity of their wounds. I mentioned that I held his wrist when he passed, and through the use of the phrase "flickering pulse," I was booted up to first class. My father told me he regretted not talking more. He felt the time others used for conversation he had filled with snooker and nodding or looking away. He surmised through a mouthful of diabetic chocolate that he had only spoke 30% of his life. It was a dismal percentage, and I was familiar with what dismal percentages could do to a person. We were spending a lot of time together then, linking arms and being totally happy. I had this one trick I did for him. I curled up tight into his bed under the starred sheets and peep out at the nurses like I was an old lady. It was a scream. They said I was their youngest patient. I laughed and asked them to leave the pills in a tidy arrangement on the bedside locker. My antics gained me a certain level of recognition and infamy in the retirement home. At times I could feel my father almost bursting with pride. We both agreed it was the perfect trick for the occasion of his near death. I was good at gestures, but it was only in that function room when I spoke my sad but true stories in my fragile tone I finally got the appeal of talking. I thought, this is what I'll be now, a talker. My career had taken a sinister turn and I had started to keep an eye out, like you do for a new lover, for other things I could try. There weren't many. All jobs seemed to contain one small thing I just could not do. It was maddening. I told a number of stories about my father that evening. I was there, but I wasn't. My mind was mainly preoccupied with what I could do in my new life as a talker. I would be both stylish and intelligent, but also deeply affecting in my conversation. When that room of strangers looked up at me, I didn't know if I wanted them to cry or to clap. It was in the shower where I found it first. I had moved into my father's old house and sometimes would shower sitting down on the stool that was installed for comfort, or if I was feeling up to it, I would stand. The bathroom was filthy with intermittent flashes of what looked like the colour peach. On sitting down days, I often crawled from one side of the room to the other. I could get away with this because I lived alone. It must have been a standing day as I realised I was a lot closer to the taps than I used to be. I was a lot closer to the hair on the taps. I was stooping over like I was playing the old lady in a celebrated stage production, except I was all scrunched up and very naked. I pressed my fingers below my shoulders and felt it shifting, unfurling, the hard roundness of it like a golf ball or a marble. I dressed myself quickly, being careful not to catch sight of it in the mirror. When I stood in the train that morning, my fingers gripping the rail above, I could feel it growing beneath my skin like a second layer of flesh. I worked in an office outside the city, and we all hid the appearance of people who had been brutally exiled. We shed our city selves, but lacking imagination, we had nothing to replace them with. Between the 40 of us, I think we could have made a complete person. I had been there 6 months, and it was probably the longest position I ever held. None of it mattered, but I liked to pretend it did. If someone came in, I might say, "Come in." That was it. That was the whole script. It wasn't exactly spiritually fulfilling. Often I was so bored I couldn't hold a conversation. I walked around cubicles abandoning sentences. Whenever I entered the kitchen area, my colleagues left quickly and without warning. I think they were jealous because my desk got the most direct sunlight. I didn't understand them at all. I had a habit of thinking I was very unique and interesting. My one friend spent her days on the phone to the refuse collection. There had been a dispute over the bins. No one knew who started it, but the rubbish had not been collected in 6 weeks, and it was not a time for chit-chat, idle or otherwise. I wanted to tell Paula about my discovery, ask her had she noticed anything different about me, but all she did was place her hand over the mouthpiece of her phone and mutter sorry. She had married young and was squeamish about all sorts. I used my mornings to investigate what was wrong with me. I opened several internet tabs, each one containing something possibly wrong, and explored them all. In the afternoons, my boss came and sat at the edge of my desk like a teacher and tried on being a thoughtful man. He was always trying to sell me things that were allegedly good for me, almond butter, aloe vera juice, himself. His face was stupidly handsome and so symmetrical it made me roll my eyes to the ceiling. He wasn't perfect though. I noticed he had a hidden aggressive streak, and at times I suspected he was responsible for the absent bin men. Also, he was not someone I went to for love and affection, and he was maybe better dressed than I would have liked. I had a lot of problems with him. He was obsessed with success. I felt I was under constant inspection, and he had a way of looking me up and down like I was a CV full of errors and misspellings. He was older, but it was hard to pin down anything. We went to a lot of dimly lit restaurants. Any time I thought I got a handle on his age, he ordered another bottle of wine and it was gone again. We talked mostly about the office, the flies that we couldn't get rid of, the people we disliked, how we physically had to wrench ourselves out of bed in the morning. Afterwards we'd go back to his and he would attempt one of his 2.5 moves. He always fell asleep with both hands on my shoulders like we were in a conga line at a party. Conga, conga, conga. Honestly, I hated him. At first, I worried about it a lot. The worrying made my food come up and up. I came to resemble my father in the early days of his illness. I was surprised when I caught sight of my legs. How do they support me? I wondered. I had no idea, but I got high and giddy on the engineering of it. At lunchtime, I ate outside with Paula. The smell of the office forced us into the cold, and we sat together shivering over our lunchboxes. Paula's lunch was made up by her husband and always contained the correct amount of protein and carbohydrates. I can't describe the empty, whooshing feeling that went through me when I saw those food combinations. When I found the courage, I asked Paula if at any stage of her life she found herself moving closer to the ground, if the chewing gum stains on the street had been any clearer to her than they used to be. "I think I'm becoming a hunchback," I confessed. Paula was adamant that I was not a hunchback, that my fundamental problem was that I used people to feel attractive. Paula wasn't interested in turning heads. She didn't want men to look at her. Any time a man looked at her, she just picked up the phone and called the refuse collection. I think she was in love with the person on the other end of the line. Their conversations tended to be about art and beauty and not about bins at all. In a short space of time, Paula became quite a dangerous woman to know. Slowly, I moved my desk 3 inches away from hers. At the weekends, I compensated by overeating. I went to nice places and flirted with the waiters. I bought books and pressure points from charity shops, some of which were highly complex pop-ups. I read these books, so I rested them 2 at a time in my head and walked the length of my father's house. As soon as I moved in, I realised this house was a mistake. It was too big for me, and the stuff I owned shrank by comparison. It looked like I had a wardrobe of baby clothes in those giant oak cupboards. If I couldn't sleep in one room, I just moved to another. It wasn't as suffocating as I needed it to be. Sometimes I just sat in a tiny space on the sitting room floor and ran my fingers over those fake 3D backs. It was like seeing a photo of myself with every flaw removed. Often I played with my father's collectibles. It wasn't a large collection, just 2 ceramic children, a boy playing the flute, a girl smiling encouragingly, and a shell in which you could hear the sea. I moved the children around the mantelpiece and marvelled at their serenity. I could turn them to face outwards, I turned them to face inwards. There wasn't much else to do. I listened to the seashell like it was my last hope. My boss described the house as weird. He said the whole setup was weird, except me. I was cute, and he liked to tickle me under the chin and then take off his clothes. He guessed something was wrong with me lately, in the way I sipped my wines, the way I sat upright and desperately still. He raised the question of me making myself sick. Only during the week, I said cheerfully, touched by his concern. We were giving up. Previously, he'd listed out my faults with amazing conviction, and I truly thought that brought us closer together as a couple. I had no discernible direction in life. I didn't want anything. I was stupid and entitled. Suddenly, he acted as if he didn't care whether I knew these things or not. Instead, he said, "Okay, I'm going to make myself come now," as if removing me from the whole act was a sort of kindness. All that was left to talk about was what we do to the bin men if we ever found them. Our last night together, I folded up my blouse and asked him to perform a thermal massage on my back and growing hump. He refused. Several weeks later, he called me into his office. There had been complaints from anonymous staff. I was never at my desk. He said it was imperative an assistant be at his or her desk. Where are you? At home, I was learning how to self-massage and was feeling pretty fulfilled. I had no interest in my job anymore, but I tried. My concentrating face required more effort than genuine concentration. The organisation of the face, the setting up of the features was exhausting. Afterwards, I often lay down on the cold tiles of the office bathroom floor and didn't move for hours. On normal days, I did my job correctly. I counted and pointed and made pleasant popping noises with my mouth. But now there were no normal days. My boss suggested time off, to grieve. He said I was a brilliant assistant, but my father's death had affected me deeply. "Take a holiday," he said. I muttered something about the restorative properties of the sea and went home to my sitting room with its battered springless couch. Before I left, Paula gave me one of those insincere half-hugs. I smiled, thinking of the polite phrasing of the email that was probably sent around informing everyone of my departure. Without work, I had hours and hours to fill. I performed difficult bending exercises. There was a futility and pointlessness to the whole procedure that I found particularly moving. These exercises had a sighing soundtrack I provided. I skimmed over articles on graceful posture, pretend to be brimming with self-confidence, pretend to be a movie star, pretend to be a human being. At night, I tried to forget about it. I stayed out alone. On the way home drunk, I took bits of songs I heard in taxis and applied them to my own life. For the first time ever, I was meeting people. Full of my own brazen ugliness, I was just walking out into the night and finding them. I considered myself pretty tolerant of people and open to new experiences and ideas. I didn't often seek out experiences, but when they were presented to me, I usually liked them. I took the new people out to meet college friends, beautiful sad girls who dressed like widows, who claimed the world had crushed them cruelly like matchboxes. Most of the new people were shy in their company. The men, usually men, often older, never joined in. They just looked at me as if that was what they were supposed to do. It was unnerving. They smelled like crackers. Sometimes crackers and cheese, sometimes crackers and another substance, but there was always a distinctive cracker smell in the air. My friends had their jackets on before they finished their drinks. I felt I was being thought of as inappropriate, and in a response dug out dry skin from my scalp and discarded it on the floor beneath me. The men sat still and silent as dummies. "What do you want from all this?" the girls asked. I didn't know. I was never a big dreamer. Maybe someone to wave at me who feebly waves back. These women thought of me as typical, not tragic enough, but still capable of pulling stunts that lowered the calibre of their beauty. I counted the number of times I had touched them all, praised their imperfections, teared at their hickeys and sex bruises. It occurred to me that I could never ask any of these women to pour aromatherapy oils over my back, gently and without judgment. They would never rub their hands along my spine and check for signs of roundness while making soft reassurances. They were there for me in the ways they should be. At the funeral, they formed a neat cluster and discreetly cried, but that was where it stopped. I wanted them to say thank you so much for everything you have done for us and our self-esteem. I wanted them to cheer the fuck up. They didn't cheer up though, and they didn't express gratitude. They just wafted out of the building and I straightened my back at them. The men continued to stare at me like I was an item of significant interest. I needed these friendships to go somewhere. I made certain alterations to my lifestyle for these old men. I dusted, I tidied away my father's collection. I cleaned out my bathroom cabinet so it resembled the cabinet of a woman who had very little to worry about. I saw myself making these slight adjustments. I watched as if it was an instructive montage about how a person can take purposeful strides in their life. The music that accompanied these scenes was sassy and upbeat. I suddenly gave a shit and it suited me. My father used to ask if I cared about other people at all, and the correct answer was yes, I did. I cared. I had healthy friendships in mind. Things should have been easier when I got the men alone, but they never were. I wanted them to talk, to tell me everything about their families and the minor incidents that destroyed them, and maybe the moments they had ruined by doing or saying the wrong thing. What then? But nothing. Their eyes just roamed around like they were searching for something better beyond my head. Of course, they were all seized by a singular fear when I began my striptease. I guess it was because I was always more involved in the tease than the strip. I liked jokes, debt jokes, single girl jokes, and I was shocked when these didn't lead naturally to a friendly situation. Sometimes when the fingers were flying over the front of my blouse, I thought, this is hilarious. No, actually, this is an illness. The inability to take anything seriously. I should get money from the state. Afterwards, I compensated by lying. I'd been let go, I'd been promoted, I do this, I do that, who cares? In a second of stupidity and weakness, I told one of them about my developing hump. I may have curled up on his chest and cried. I may have beaten his chest lightly with my fists. He promised that if we stayed together, he'd love me all the same. He wasn't begging, but he nearly was. After he left the house in the half-dark, I caught him on the street kicking a taxi. It was an embarrassing situation. The time came to return to work, but I couldn't do it. It wasn't so much the job as the confusion and frustration that went with it. Standing and sitting and breathing in the stale air of people who despised me. I couldn't face it. I rang up HR and told them my boss made a pass at me. I said I hoped it accounted for some of my odder behaviour in the weeks before my departure. HR asked, what happened? I said, well, he brought me into his office. HR said, of course he did, he's your boss. I said, he sat across from me at the table. HR said nothing. I said, he leaned quite far across the table. HR said nothing. I said, it was a very small table.
Brilliant. I think we're going to have a question. That's man's up there. Yeah. I suppose get started with Nicole. I've said before you this cool cotton voice, but it's still recognisably Ireland.
Yeah.
It's when the taxi got kicked. Would you like to talk about that? Did New York influence you? I got the feeling that year in New York had a big influence on you.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting because I read a lot of American writers, like you said, Larry Moore, and I really like a writer called Tessa Mishbeg. But I feel like the Irish influence is, just like ingrained in me at this point because we've got such a strong short story tradition. So from whatever age, 19, 20, I would have grown up reading Kevin Barry, Colin Barrett, Lisa McInerney. I feel, and then when I sat down to write it, I felt like it was a kind of blending of these two influences in some kind of way.
Yeah. I wondered that is there a kind of rift between your voice and I and what can be considered the kind of great Irish short story writers.
Yeah. It's a blending of. We're definitely influenced by. I was actually I was rereading Their Little Kingdoms, Kevin Barry's first collection. Great book. And I was just thinking about how influential that book has been on this entire generation. I imagine it's just kind of give you that freedom to be able to try and do both, the comedy and the darkness.
Yeah, the comedy is it is the hardest thing to do.
Yeah. I really like comedy in writing though, and I was laughing at Cara had some very funny lines in there. I like to read it. That's the only reason I write it.
Cara, you've a great ear. Would you like to talk about that? How you pick up language
I'm nosy. I'm not much of a talker. I probably consider myself quite introverted in a lot of situations, and you just hear snippets of things, or you're walking along and you can hear someone what they say just catches you a little bit, and it just sticks in my head, and I'm like, that would definitely fit in well somewhere in something I've written.
do you pick it up and kind of go, that's stored for the use?
Yeah, sometimes, definitely. A lot of Midland sayings and inflections seem to creep into my writing. unbeknownst to
never.
myself. Like the word mammy,
Yeah.
which we were talking about earlier on. But I think it gives my writing some sort of uniquely me thing.
Yeah. I mean, would you feel between now and this time last year that you kind of think more as a writer?
Definitely, yeah. The course, obviously.
Yeah.
Like, I finished the course. I didn't know what I was doing. Like, I'd never finished a story. I had never really submitted to anything. I was just kind of coming in like, right, we'll give this a go. And now I'm like at the end of first year and I've had things published and it's just like utterly insane to me.
It's been a short time since February. You did say that earlier on yesterday that you thought about the RT short story collection or competition, and then you looked at the kind of the language stipulation that you should really be careful with your language, or you went, no.
Like I cut swear words out of this already. Like I'm at my minimum here. But yeah, But you do have a determination about thing. When we talked about the short story, there's a particular line in the one that's going into the Irish Times, and you said that doesn't go in unfunded. Yeah, that's my, like I said it to you, like that paragraph is my personal best thing I've ever written, and if it doesn't get in there, they can't have it.
Yeah. One of us is going to say it here. I can't quite remember it. Yeah, but home is very important to you. I mean, but it's like with both of you, it's in a way it's kind of a very recognisable Ireland in 2017. Nicole, do you want to pick up on that?
Yeah, it's funny.
Are you creating a new Ireland? Or are you reflecting it?
I don't know.
Or is that a stupid question?
No. I feel like if I said that's Ireland, and when people read the book, they'll be like, no, it's not Ireland. I definitely. I think I hadn't really been thinking about it in terms of the collection because I wrote these stories over over an extended period of time that I wasn't sure how the themes would come together. But home does come into it a lot, and going home or leaving home, and I guess that's immigration has been such a part of Ireland that, particularly when I left college, everyone was emigrating. And I think then even friends of mine that were coming back, they had such a fear of their old lives and almost splitting themselves, becoming bilocated between one place and another place. So I feel that's in the collection, completely.
I mean, I suppose when I kind of started writing, it was almost the kind of thing to escape from Irishness in a way, to escape from a certain kind of clawing Irishness.
Yeah.
I mean, would you still be aware of that, or?
Yeah, it certainly would be. I feel like many writers, such as yourself or Anne and Ryder, they've done a lot of the heavy lifting for a lot of our generation. They've kind of made it easier to be a little bit more experimental or to move away from that or say something against Irishness. But yeah, I still am aware of what the idea of Ireland is to some people. There's a story in the collection where a girl goes and she works in a garage in a small Midlands town, and I definitely it's not the most praising depiction of a Midlands town. Not any Midlands town in particular.
I'll ask you the same question, Carol, because in a way, there's no Ireland from, if you like. You're very much in the place that you're from, and yet it's a cosmopolitan way of looking at things.
You can take the girl out of Mullingar, but you can't take Mullingar out of the girl. It's an impossibility. It doesn't matter what I'm writing, there's always that same, I don't know, a sense of disillusionment, I guess. And I would definitely link that back into, my Ireland and the Ireland I know and the Ireland I grew up in, recession, post-Celtic Tiger, whatever. There's just always some sort of, grey wash over my writing when it's got to do with sense of place and stuff. And yeah, I can't escape it.
And
I just embrace it.
It bristles with life as well, with both of you. I'm kind of curious about when I started writing, it was very much the writer as individual. Nicole, you sort of talk about this. and there was no sense of a collective. We were talking about this earlier on about kind of writing stories, springing up in BAs and MAs and all that sort of stuff. I mean, and the other thing I noticed is both of you are very, very comfortable reading, and you both speak very, very well, which wouldn't have been the case. I know some of you guys have heard this. Like my first reading, I asked my brother afterwards what it sounded like, and he said it sounds like you're standing on top of a washing machine full of spin. I mean, does the communal idea of working in a group, how does that affect you? You know, when you kind of did the MA, for instance.
Siblings are very honest, aren't they? My sister is always the first one to tell me. I think that's it's a obviously you have to work on your own a lot, and I think that as a writer at whatever age you're just going to have to accept that a large bulk of the work is going to be spent on your own, thinking on your own, trying to get to a certain place on your own. So I think it is nice in Ireland that we have such a strong and supportive writing community. Like I had my first story published in the Stinging Fly. That story I read it out there, and from when that kind of happened, I felt like I knew a couple of people that were willing to, give me their time or read stuff for me. And I also had friends from the MA I did that, we still talked about books, and I think that's also a great thing to have. Just even to talk about books is like a very exciting thing when you're like a certain age and big reading. So yeah, I think that's one reason. I would definitely pinpoint that as a reason that Ireland produces such a strong writers.
I mean, Sligo Fly and sport with you as well, Cara. How do you feel? I mean, we again just mentioned this earlier on of the proliferation of writers, good writers. I mean, Sligo Fly, Declan told me last time around that they had 1,000 story submissions. Do you feel like you get lost in the snowstorm there somewhere? Or?
I don't think so. I was completely oblivious to the fact that there was such a large and supportive writing community in Ireland until I started my degree, and then all of a sudden it was there's loads of us. And I feel so happy and so privileged to be part of an active writing community where we all support one another, and so there's never any feeling of being lost amongst anybody like that. I feel like I fit in just as well as everyone else, and we're all one big happy commune.
Some picture comes through my head there, sitting around smoking loofahs and maybe throw it open to the floor, question like that. Okay, Cara. Right. Nicole, how long, I'm kind of curious because how long did it take you to write the collection?
Wow. Too long. On and off since the publication of that story. It's been for 4 years. I'm 29 now, so it's been about 4 years now. I was doing a lot of other stuff. I was. But it took that long to get all these stories together. So.
Yeah. And Cara, you're kind of mercurial. You sent me 2/3 of a short story on Saturday and said, I'm finishing this for Wednesday. Really?
I work in fits and bursts. I might have, a run of 3 weeks where I'm just I can't even write a sentence. And then I'll just sit down one day and be like, right, time to do it, time to just get it out of the way.
Yeah.
So I'm happy enough with that process for the moment. Probably not too viable long term, but...
Yeah. And did you find all the kind of fuss kind of blocked you with the first publication?
A little bit. It was stressful. It was stressful for a little while. It's just what if this was a fluke and this is the only good thing I ever write again in my life, and everything from here on in is just god awful. So, but I got over that. Just have to get over yourself. So yeah.
And what about you, Nicole? What kind of consistency? You're kind of starting into a novel now.
Have I? Maybe.
Is it daunting or?
I think the idea of going from like a story collection to a novel in itself is daunting, because I think they're so completely different. Like, I feel like with a story you can tinker around with it for ages, and you're like looking at the paragraphs and you're looking at the sentences very closely, whereas I don't think that's almost the most useful thing to do for a novel, whereas I feel like it's best to just write it and keep at it.
Is there freedom in that?
Yeah, I think there is a freedom, and like I have one very long story in this book, which was me definitely like, I think, trying to start a novel, or like I'd like move towards a longer form. So I think I can do it. The question is when. Yeah.
Well, you kind of couldn't take it off. No, seriously, I mean,
I'm quite fickle when it comes to my own writing. Like, I can, like, you know, you already know, like, I'll get an idea and I'll run with it and I'll be like, this is great, and then just, if I vocalise the idea to anyone, I'm just like, I don't want to write it anymore, I'm done with it, time to move on to the next thing, which is a terrible habit and I really should break it, but I'm definitely getting better at it.
Yeah. Yeah, with you, Nicole, I mean, I would find the same. You know, I get an image and I tell somebody what it is. It's kind of before I write it down.
Yeah, it's the like what Cara was saying there about the fickleness. I think that's like stories suit me because I'm like, that's an idea. I can do that to like a certain point, and I'll never generally get bored of it because it's quite short. But like I feel like once again, like a novel requires like a whole different form of attention, like sustained attention. That is hard in this day and age because no one has any attention anymore, particularly me. So yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it is like doing time. You do it one day at a time because it has like a feeling about it, all right.
Oh no.
Yeah. Okay, I think we'll wrap up there. So, thank you both for
Thank you so much to Nicole and Cara, and also to Eoin McNamee for facilitating that and doing such lovely introductions. We're going to have an open mic now, and for the open mic, just a reminder to readers that there's a maximum of 3 minutes. So I'll just initially call up Ali Lenihan.
Hello, I have 2 poems this evening. The first is the prompt catharsis. Catharsis. Catharsis, noun. 1. The process of releasing, and thereby providing relief from, strong or repressed emotions. 2. The way the word sounds, it bends in on itself like a final escape from what's been digging into your ventricles all these months. 3. The breath can come rushing out of you in an extended sigh. Old carbon dioxide has lived in your lungs all these months. 4. You might unclench your fists, giving softness to your purple knuckles, unfolding the tension that they've held all these months. 5. You might scream or cry. This is normal. The tears are there to wash you clean. A saltwater bath to rinse the grit from the corners of your eyes after all these months. 6. It will close the wound, stitches crisscrossing it, thick as silk rope, and the infection that has plagued you will heal. After all these months, it is over and you have found where health has been hiding. The second is written for the prompt, A Happy Place. We have been in all kinds of adventures, through the bitter wind upon stone, to a sunlit picnic less than an hour later. Dripping, howling underground layers, where we heard tell of bygone mermaids, don't bump your head off the stalactites. We called out in the song of written word to whatever creatures lived under there, and I hope they enjoyed our performance. One bumpy travel sleek bus ride home, with shared conversations and lollipops, a weight taken off my mind by the caves. When I tell practical-minded students of mathematical minutiae and scientific sense that we wrote like Hemingway in the grass, they laugh, say, fucking art students, but it was the first day it felt like summer, what with the bumblebee buzz in the air. What relevance did archaeology have to us? Well, they were Mesolithic storytellers too,
1,000 generations of writing ago. Oh yeah, just that was about Owen's class that we had for the past year in the course. So.
Patrick Pugh.
Evening there, folks. Taken up poetry about 2 years ago now, after going to college and starting to get back into education. So, I'll give you a dose of this one to start with, called Eco Poker. The equilibrium of man's existence runs through his fingers like oil through a... Sorry again. Equilibrium of man's existence runs through his fingers like oil through a pump in an Arab oil field, as the gasoline burn has come and gone, where the electric bumper car's future dawns, on the Disneyland eco-epoch of man's follies, stretching the fabric of Earth's Eden in a Fermat paradox game of cards, where all the trump cards have been played out. So, I'll give you a different slant. This one is called Giants of Earth. Homo sapiens stand at the edge of a galactic beach, with augmented intellect in hand, flicking new toys into space like spoiled giants in a playpen. Religion and philosophy are unanswered. The home world dying under his feet as he curls his toes in the sand, as he stands gazing at the sea of stars from whence he came. Pan-seeded 40 million years ago by gods of old, who he yearns to meet on an equal footing of stars, as he stumbles around like a blind pigeon in a park full of stars, seeking that which he can't find on the edge of his galactic beach.
Colin Lawler.
I just have a short story to read. I hope it's short anyway. I think it's less than 3 minutes. It's kind of a series of vignettes. It's called A Personal Connection. I wake from a nightmare. I'm sitting up and she is still fast asleep beside me. I'm sweating. All I ever dream about is her anymore, even though I see her every day, and sometimes they're nightmares and I don't know what that means. I'm scared that I'll lose her someday. The nightmares are always about her dying or killing me or both. I kind of jump whenever she lifts a knife now. That's not normal. I look around. My room is a mess. Weird to think how long we've lived out here. I've honestly lost track. It feels like a month, a year, a lifetime. Would that be so awful, a whole lifetime of this? Look up there, she says when we're sitting in the backyard one day. Is it a bird? Is it a plane? I joke. A blackbird, yeah. There's a blackbird flitting about in the trees. Not a blackbird, but a black bird, a bird which is black. I don't know what kind, I'm bad at that kind of thing. What's he doing? Having fun. I hope so. He hops to a branch near her. She smiles at it like she's about to pet it, but it flies away. There he goes. It flies off into the blue sky. It goes towards the sun. By the time I realize I've lost sight of it, my eyes are sore from staring into the sun for far too long. I'm sitting on the couch while she sits on the floor. She's playing video games again. I'm not really paying attention to her though. I'm scrolling on my phone. It doesn't take much effort to look at what other people are saying. It's rare that I contribute anything myself. I watch, I laugh, maybe I hit like, maybe not. Want to play? Nah, I'm good. Suit yourself. It's somebody's birthday today. We ride the train out to the city one day. She's so tired. We had to get up early so we could spend the whole day up there. She's not used to it. She looks at me across the table and smiles, but I can see so much weariness in her eyes. I'm going to take a nap, she says. Okay. Push up, she says, standing up. She takes the seat next to me, leans into my chest and sighs deeply. Then she's asleep. I can feel her on me, her entire weight on my being. She's here with me and I'm here with her, but she feels lonely. I idly run my fingers through her hair. Sometimes I feel like I'll live forever. Sometimes I feel like I'm already dead. She turns to me sometimes with smoke floating around her and she looks like an angel. Am I in heaven? I say. I'd say it's hell, she says. If I'm going down, I'm taking you with me. We're not dead yet, we'd know. Would we? Yeah, and when I die, I'm so gonna haunt you. You're already haunting me. She doesn't know what to say to that. She keeps getting texts from her mother. She never responds. I ask her why, and all she ever says is fuck her. Her mother tried calling her while we were standing by the lake. She threw her phone into the water. It's quieter now. I almost pass out in the supermarket. I don't really know why, but I'm suddenly on the floor staring up at an unfamiliar ceiling. She rushes over and asks if I'm okay. I take a second to say that I am. She helps me up and it never happens again. I have another nightmare. This time it's not about her. I'm walking down the street and I'm lost. Someone asks me to help, but I can't find them. I try my best to do whatever I'm supposed to be doing, but nothing seems to work. I take off my clothes, I tear off my flesh, I split my ribs open and pull my heart out of my chest, but nobody notices me. I wake up. She's still there. She says we have a personal connection. I don't really know what that's supposed to mean. We're friends, but we're closer than that. Best friends, I guess, but it feels closer than that, too. Partners would imply that some sort of romance. And friends with benefits just sounds gross. Companions? I don't know, we're close. Let's move to the desert, she says one evening among a cloud of smoke. What? The desert, let's move there. Why? We don't need anything to survive, we just live out among the tumbleweeds and the cactuses. How can you be sad when the sun is always shining? Cacti? Well, whatever. We'd need sustenance. Cactus juice and armadillo meat, that's all you need. I laugh at this. She still knows how to make me laugh. She's so thin now. There's a smile on her lips, but it doesn't seem real. She doesn't look real. She turns to me through the haze, blinks slowly, then looks back out the window. Have you eaten today?
Callum Blakely with an evening song.
No, it's not. Oh, there we go. I was on the train on Monday, and I was listening to the musical Hamilton. So I wrote a poem about war. Then, a couple of hours ago, I was playing the ukulele, and me and Niamh decided to turn it into a song. We've rehearsed it twice. Hopefully it doesn't suck. So, I shall start playing. My phone is freaking. Okay, now I will start playing.
Wings float on fleeting wisps of sky as boots underneath stamp sigils of unrest and cry of revolution's Gemini. Their eyes lift to those escapees of life's roulette that set them on this path they tread. Children in their steed, made men by conflict and born leaders by the dead, instead of growing and knowing this new life they laid down their own for. They knock upon heaven's door, these, the poor that sought to rise up. Above their station, the disease of frustration imbibed in their souls and bell tolls of mornings past and dreary noon that soon reared dead to the sound of yesterday's shower of lead, that now has found its final resting bed in the chests of the many, unready yet steadfast and steady, to wait for their command, to fight for their land. And loved ones and young ones that too wait. Wait for word. Wait. Wait. Wings float
Wings
on fleeting wisps of sky, as boots underneath stamp sigils, unresting cries of revolution's Gemini. Their eyes lift to those escapees of life's roulette that set them on this path they tread. Children in their stead made men by conflict, and born leaders by the dead. Instead of growing and knowing this new life they lay down their own for. They knock upon heaven's door, these the poor that sought to rise up above their station. The disease of frustration imbibed in their souls. Tolls of mornings past and early noon. That seems rears its head, dead to the sound of yesterday. Shower of the leg that now has found its final resting bed in the chests of the many, unready yet steadfast and steady, to wait for their command to fight for their land, and loved ones and young ones that too wait for word, wait.
And I'll leave you some.
So this is just a short piece called The Safety of Sadness. There is a pain, often felt, mostly indescribable, that jolts and almost comfort in the pit of your stomach. The comfort is noted, but never attaches itself to the end of the pain's descriptions. To feel comfort in such pain insinuates romance, pleasure. You cannot say that you are safe here, as this opens the blackened, barricaded door that leads to giving up on you. They are allowed to do that now. You are no longer in pain. You are secure, laying on a soft, white blanket resting your once weary head. This is what they see. But their eyes are feigning truths. The blanket suffocates. It is made of superglue and you are trapped. Your head is pinned down and your breath has escaped the once tight hold of your lungs. All you smell is red and all you hear is stale. But you have felt this all before. You know what it's like to never be alone. You know what it's like to think everyone a suspect, to pin the sharp arguments on yourself. You are a police corkboard, a murder inquiry going nowhere. Untrained smiles feel foreign. Pleasant feelings are undeserved. Steady heartbeats are worrying. There is no safety in this. It is a tightrope, the podium you tiptoe to on the horizon forever. Your outstretched arms long for rest, your concentration slips, and so do your feet. You're falling now. It is slow and then all at once. It is the slumber you slip into after hyperactivity. The net hits you before you hit it. The ropes wrap you up and you didn't think this would happen again, but it has. Slithering arms grip you and shush you with a horrific lullaby. Your legs have been cut off. You can sew them back on when the month-long nightmare has ended. The sewing will take a week. So you wait and then you get sewing. Arms are starting to ache, but you keep on, eyes unsteady and stomach convulsing. Your legs are your legs again. The thread is noticeable, but only when they look closely. The ladder shudders and screams warnings at you as you climb, but you're better now. Falling is for amateurs, and you've done this a million times before. The ease fades to an orange tinge, sugary for a moment. The taste glides on your tongue as you walk the tightrope, and you forget why you do this to yourself every time. But the taste turns bitter. You can only feel the next foot in front of you. The orange is too bright and you're blind. This hurts like hell, but you're smiling because it also doesn't. The hurt is flattened out at the bottom of your stomach until you slip, and so the cycle repeats.
I'm Mr. Ed, the talking horse. Scroll flying buttress number X to Maggie. The last temptation of Christ was normality. Let me kneel in your cathedral, pray, shout echoes and ride in air, unwind your kundalini, reverberate your spine, caress each chakra, stare into your trinity, kiss your third eye, Reach in and touch your supreme identity. Explode you, explode me, sleep for 3 days, and start again. You are church, altar, chalice, communion wine. I want to drink you, eat you, hold you, kneel before you, worship in you, scratch steps into your pews. Mount me on Golgotha, nail me to your cross, crown me with your pain. I bleed salvation's blood for you, in the crime of the passion fruit. Let's eat figs on the bow trees, my sweet bodhisattva. Second. This poem is called I Love to Bullshit, and it was written at the back fence in Greenwich Village in New York City back in the late 80s. I love to bullshit. Poets to the left of me, poets to the right of me, poets in front of me, poets inside of me. Into the valley of the back fence rode the brave bad poet. Poet to brute. Poets multiply like politicians on St. Patrick's Day. Edgar Allan poets, Ezra Pounding poets, poets strung out on Thorazine, poets killing their livers. Everybody's a poet. Hacks driving hacks aren't hacks, but poets. I am a poet, Luke Skywalker. No! The metaphor, Luke. Use the metaphor. Holy cat in the hat, Batman. It's a poet. Not just a poet, Robin, but a grade A bullshit artist. And I thought onomatopoeia was a synonym for masturbation. No, my son, said Nipsey Russell, but bad is good in black English. And I would Gorbachev and Glasnost, Russian poets. Not one brave AK-47 against Stalin, no, but another million towers of Babel, babbling Babel. Whole landfills of poets. Even Staten Island got poets. Everybody's a poet. Bugs Bunny's a poet. Tim McCarver's a poet. G.I. Joe's a poet. Barbara just became a poet. Poets with their pterodactyls. Up your iambic pentameter. Give these poets 3 minutes at the back fence and they'll want a whole hour at St. Mark's. Bang, zoom, bright lights, big time. The bells, 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 bells of poets. Ding-a-ling-a-ling, and Rod McEwen whispers in my ear. It's better to be a bad poet than a good axe murderer. The end. Thank you for listening.
Dallas O'Connor.
Hi, I am extremely nervous. This is a poem I wrote actually quite a while, and it's about an experience I have had with anxiety, which is a very real thing, so it's quite personal. And it's called Inner Demons. It's my worst enemy. It hurts me mentally and steals my identity. I have no integrity to treat myself respectfully. It makes me sick, it makes me sad, it makes me mad. I can't break through these bricks. They're stronger than any eclipse and bigger than any apocalypse. And you try to stop it, but you just can't. Everything just spins and the torture begins. You wake me up at night, making my chest feel bound and tight. My confidence is erased, my breathing out of pace. Everything I hope for just goes away. My dreams and desires rot and decay. You make me feel like no one cares, that my mind and body are beyond repair. Your strength and brutality beneath my skin, this is something I win. It's not only a cast or a sign of blood, pain is something always misunderstood. The worst demons are the ones you cannot see. I try to run or do meditation, but this aspect can't be resolved through exercise or medication. I'm afraid of the world, I'm afraid of her, things I can't control. Where is the fairness of it all? I create this character because she is perfect, powerful, and invincible, but she isn't real. My heart only worries it doesn't beat. The world is falling beneath my feet. It's called Hyper-Vigilance, but you don't know how to spell it because you have no idea what it feels like when you can't breathe, when you feel like you're drowning and you can't inhale because then you black out. And you won't open your mouth until your head feels like it's exploding. Then when you finally inhale, it stops hurting. It's like you're screaming and no one can hear. But you know if you tell them they wouldn't care. And I know I can't go in there and tell them what they want to hear because that would be lying, and lying makes everything worse. I shouldn't have to rhyme this for you to know it's true. I'm always worried that I will never be enough, that I will never be that someone you wish you raised me to be. And it's true. I don't have to wear a dress or my hair up to prove I'm that perfect daughter. I don't have to get a man just to bring you laughter. That's not who I am, and I don't care if you disagree. But I've been singing this song for so long that I just need to pause and rewrite the lyrics. And if they don't hurt me, they hurt everyone else. This writing and rhyming is to describe myself. I'm tired of being the victim of your fun. You controlled every aspect of my life just to see me run. Thanks to you, I no longer feel safe. As I walk through the halls, I can feel my heart race. You make me feel like I don't belong in this place. And it's driving me insane. Are you happy now? You've won. You are fueled with negativity and hate. How does any of this make you feel great? You're the reason I walk with my head held down, scared to move or make a sound. Your words don't hurt, they bleed. Thank you.
Florian Menzel.
So, this is a short poem about anxiety and being trapped and getting out again. Hotel angst. You walk along and struggle, overcome by fear. You look around, there's nothing to see, worried, afraid of a place you couldn't change. Are you the master of the mind, I ask you? Don't hesitate to tell. No need to talk, answer to yourself. Has it trapped you, buckled tight, in your suffocating mind? I'm the map to guide you out. Take my hand and let me drag you. Close your eyes to wake up in the light you came from, your natural habitat and pride.
Emil.K.Na.
So I moved to Ireland when I was about 11, and this is a poem about being homesick. The title is Homesick. There is a breeze messing up my hair. I breathe in slowly, and it feels like breathing in the memories. It hurts as a physical force tore my heart into shreds. When I close my eyes, I vaguely see that old neighborhood. I walk alone with earphones in, listening to Nicole's sweet voice singing about death. The sidewalk hard under my feet as I take step after step. In front of me I see the trees enshrouded in darkness. To my right I see the playground. To my left there is the shop. I breathe in again, open my eyes, and realize I'm not there. Instead I am here, walking down the street between pubs and the shops. Everything is loud, people pass me by. The only thing that is the same is the breeze, the same evening breeze.
Ian Doherty.
This is my attempt at a sestina. I don't have a title, but if I did, I would call it "Are Astronauts Afraid of the Dark?" The astronaut viewed the world from above. He glided through the vacuum of space like a bat. He'd wanted to pilot a shuttle since before he could drive a car. The infinite void of darkness called to him louder than a siren. Up here there was no up or down, left or right, west or east. The fear and excitement coursed through him in equal measure. Fear is what keeps us alive, even, perhaps especially, astronauts. Since the sun first rose in the east over early humans and the bats returned to their caves, the darkness rapidly retreating as fire and the wheel paved the way for the car. With a car you can reach distances in hours that used to take months, an accomplishment that really cannot be undervalued. Yet one must fear the reckless driver, and roads cloaked in darkness. Everyone has a tale of loss in that regard. But an astronaut must put their faith in the pilot to steer a machine that would have seemed godlike to our ancestors. Those would have seen harmless bats as demons. As they migrated east out of Africa, shaking like a leaf here. Like orbiting the eastern hemisphere like a drifting sports car, feeling cooler than Batman, the fear vanished momentarily and the astronaut smiled, as the darkness pulled at him from every direction. The darkness, when it made hold, had a paralyzing effect on many a would-be adventurer. But from those riding the Silk Road east, despite the Mongolian bandits, to those sailing west to find new lands, an astronaut and their kind will carry on, regardless. The determination that forced us to stand upright on two legs and then replace those legs with the legs of a horse, and then a car because the horses would crap on everything, allowed us to navigate the effects of fear, like a bat soaring through the night sky with echolocation. Fun fact, in the West, bats are associated with evil, cave-dwelling demonic creatures of darkness, of course. Because of fear, they were unjustly hunted. In the East, though, they are seen as lucky. Without them, mosquitoes would have finished off humanity long before it made it to the car, let alone astronauts. So, please, don't fear bats or other such irrational bogeymen. Be an astronaut, explore the darkness. For you know, anyone could invent the new car or discover the new Silk Road, east, west, or skywards.
and Isolt Healy.
These two short poems could come under the one umbrella of things we take for granted. And the first is titled The God of Colour. I gave you this gift for pleasure, so you enjoy existence on your small world. I thought no harm could come to them through you, that you also would be safe with them. But what have you done? Betrayed green and apple snakes and envy, ripped my adored yellow for jealous small minds, splurged passionate red on dirty mouths, dirty beds, dirty people. You cry to all my blues, get browned off, seek brown truffles where noses were not meant to go. Holy bums sit and shit on my cardinal red, pontificate my purple. As for pink, the pig has better taste than most lovers. And my rainbow, made to delight small children with tales of wonder, you created your own rainbow to divide and conquer the white, yellow, beige, black, blue, black, red peoples. If Mona, starry nights, girls with pearls, a kiss from Gustave, a drink from Constable, or a lily from Monet cannot bring your sights to size, then what hope my canvas? The only colour you adore, the one you strive for, the one that unites you all is the one you invented yourselves. Black minds, black souls, black deeds, black hearse. The enemy is always black in a black hat in a black back alley. Black boxes to watch, black boxes to find at ocean bottoms, black print, black blood, so black you shall have. And do not bother to ask who turned out the lights. Thanks. The title is The Kiss Museum. Tomorrow I go to the Kiss Museum, part of the curriculum. What is a kiss? Why did they do it? Wasn't it infectious? Was it ownership, a musking? Hideous activities of man so long ago, best forgotten, the book says. The only archive shows in black and white, the camera so close on their faces, lips to lips, swaying bodies, dreamy eyes, then eyes closed, loss of will. What idiocy, animalcy, the book says. I wonder about my dream. At time, this man invaded my space, leaned his head close, put his lips on mine, then my world was his mine. I would trade my time now to be back when kisses were free, to a time when kisses, so the book says, were between all humans, regardless of age, when mouths were not just for food and obedience. I lick my lips. I want him now, my dream man, to kiss me like the museum kiss, long, slow, deliberate. And then, whatever comes after, I am tired of what the book says. It never kissed. Thank you.
Thank you so much to everyone who read, and again, many people reading for the very first time. So well done. I would just want to thank the library, the county librarian Donald Tinney, and then Eoin McNamee and Michelle Brennan, who have been facilitating this event and hosting us so beautifully. Thank you very, very much. And the tea and coffee. And is it John that does the John, thank you as well. Also, I just wanted to thank the students from the BA Writing and Literature, and also this evening from the Performing Arts course, many of whom read. The next word is on the 29th of May, so that it'll be the last Wednesday of this month, 4 weeks from today, and Ruth Fitzmaurice will be one of our guests. We haven't organised the other guests just yet, so hopefully you'll all come back on the 29th and sign up for the open mic. Lastly, I just want to thank Nicole Flattery and Caragh Maxwell for your beautiful readings and for being here today. Thank you very, very much.